Hey there, Craig. We've done a pretty good job of teasing this podcast over the course of the week, haven't we?
Yeah, having our own Twitter account, which is, by the way, at Nats Talk on the Go, has really been a lot of fun because we can do things like tease the podcast and all of that. So,
And it's not just an amalgam of retweets.
right, it's not just, oh, did you say something about the podcast? No, okay, I guess I'll go and say something about the podcast. But then can you retweet it to your like 500,000 followers?
It's very much not that many followers.
So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. We've had a lot of fun podcast developments. Last week we announced that, yeah, last week, that's right. We did a podcast a week ago.
I know.
Uh, and it's the off season. It's cool. It's fun. But anyway, we announced that we had our own Twitter handle at Nats Talk on the Go. And then we've got a couple more fun announcements we'll get to in a little bit after a couple updates to let people join the show.
Yes, we are building our empire as we were. It only took us many, many years.
Yeah.
But
We're like one of those micronations. Like
nice.
some dude just like writes a letter to the government. It's like, meh, I want
Like
to
the
be off the grid.
like Federated States of Micronesia.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or like Vatican City.
Yeah, that's probably significantly more accurate.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I was very intrigued by many, many events over the course of the week, but mostly I just want to talk about your rib.
Oh yeah, my
There needs to be an update here.
mech rib.
Yes, your mech rib.
So breaking news, my
Ah,
rib.
yeah, very, yeah.
I
That's
stole that joke from Frank.
yeah. That's it was a good one though.
Yeah, it was great. Um, yeah, it turns out I broke a rib on the left side of my body. I would not recommend breaking a rib, especially when you work in lifting things a lot. Um, Not the most comfortable thing in the world. Would not recommend, would not return. There's nothing you can really do for a rib except for don't be an idiot and then take drugs.
Yeah.
So that has happened.
So you could definitely do one of those two things. The other one, I'm not sure you're capable of.
The stupid one is I'm
Yeah,
definitely doing.
deep burn.
Yeah, so that was fun and it's still fun and very uncomfortable to deal with, but that's okay because, that's what, happens.
Yeah,
Could
I
be
will.
worse.
On my side of the of the world, I sat down today. I sat down today, and it felt like someone stabbed me in the back of the neck with a needle for the next 3 hours. I still have
Nice.
no idea what the hell I did. I just
Nice.
have legitimately no clue. But I was in excruciating pain for 3 hours.
Yeah, getting old is fun.
It's a hell of a thing.
It is.
It's a hell of a thing to do to a person.
Yes, it is. Life
So
is indeed bad.
yes. So let's not hang off the news that people are coming for, obviously, for too much longer. So why don't you let the people know what we've been teasing that they will undoubtedly be disappointed by?
Oh, everyone's going to be disappointed. We're selling the crap out of this, but it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So we have quote unquote hired a new member of the Nats Talk on the Go team. Uh, Kurt, who everyone lovingly knows as Fake FP, has joined our ragtag team as our design czar. And if you go to at Nats Talk on the Go right now, you can check out our brand new logo. We have
Yes.
a professionally designed by Fake FP logo that is absolutely incredible.
You should have
It's
seen the string of text messages that Craig and I sent back and forth once we saw the email from Kurt. We were like, "Oh my god, I'm geeking out. This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life."
Yeah, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's gorgeous, and we absolutely love it. And in addition to having a design czar and an official logo, Joe and I are actually going to get into the shirt game, and we're going to get into the button game, and we are going to at some point, probably not in time for your Christmas shopping needs, um, have some shirts available with some of the amazing logos that Kurt has made for the podcast. And all proceeds of those will be going to the Nats Youth Baseball Academy. We will, of course, not take a cent out of that, and it will all go to charity, all go to a good cause. But Kurt has been absolutely incredible. We literally had no changes on anything because everything was just so perfect right off the bat. And
Yeah.
we were speechless, and we can't thank him enough. And we're so glad that such a loyal listener has joined our team to make us seem like we actually can be somewhat professional, even though everyone who's listened to us ever knows we're not.
Yes, we're going for the facade of professionality. But what I do want to say, I want to say two things on that note. First of all, that we put a logo up that is the official show logo. We will be putting it on buttons. We will also, there are 3 other logos that Kurt designed that were equally phenomenal, and they will be put on t-shirts, as Craig said. So once those details come together, we will let you know. And they will be available for purchase. But there are 3 other phenomenal logos out there that are waiting to be seen. So we're going to keep teasing you just for a little while, but you'll see them soon enough, we promise.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And if you're not already following at FakeFP, first off, what are you doing with your life?
Right.
Second off, go follow him and thank him and tell him how amazing his work is, because it really is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing is, it's really cool for us that Kurt was able to get this design, and we loved it so much because he is one of those people that has literally listened from the very first episode.
So in terms of sheer pity that he's actually suffered through all of that,
right?
The least we could do.
Right? So we appreciate it, and we're going to find a way to thank him very much with at least a free t-shirt and a hell of a lot of other things, because we owe him for it, and we appreciate it. And he's a good friend and a hell of a designer. You should check out some of his work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is our big announcement on the employment staff front and the logo front. So, and I guess the swag front as well. So let's talk about a little baseball.
I love talking about baseball, because isn't that really why we're here?
No.
Not really. Okay, that's fine.
So why don't you take us to the baseball conversation where you'd like it to go?
All right, so let's just start. As always is the case, the second we finished recording last week's Monday night podcast, all of the news broke.
Yeah.
In baseball, and or in Nat's world, and in baseball as a whole. We're going to get to most of these stories, if not all of them, over the next 40 minutes of talk, probably 30 minutes, and then questions. So let's just go ahead and start with what in the world the Nationals have actually done.
Right.
And,
because they've been rumored into many, many, many deals.
Yeah, no question. So the most familiar Nats signing, we'll go signing first, is former San Francisco Giants pitcher Yusmeiro Petit.
Yep.
Who most of you remember from that marathon 18-inning game where he was just utterly dominant against the Nats, and I believe it was Game 2 of the playoffs last year.
It was game 2, the 18-inning
marathon that just broke everyone's hearts.
Yep.
And Yusmeiro Petit was absolutely phenomenal for the Giants then. He's been more of a swingman lately. He posted a 3.66 ERA, 8.8 strikeouts per 9. He doesn't have a lot of velocity. He's pretty much a soft tosser. He throws, averages upper 80s on his fastball. So really a lot of junk, but he's going to be he's going to take that Craig Stammen role of pitcher that's capable of throwing multiple innings at one go. Can do one inning, but can also do 7 innings if need be. So he's going to fill that, long man role, give you some efficient performance, not going to light anyone's world on fire, but he's going to get the job done. And to get that kind of a player with a major league pedigree for 1 year and $3 million, that's a pretty good deal by Mike Rizzo, I think.
Yeah, and an option, I think, too. So,
nice, yeah.
I think that it's a really good deal for a guy that obviously bit them in the past, and he's coming off of a very down year. So I think that it was it's the only sub-zero negative WAR season of his career since his rookie season. So it was a down year for him. Now, the year the Nationals struggled with him in the postseason in 2014 was the best year of his career by a wide margin. So they're not looking to get either of those things. They're looking to split the difference somewhere in the middle, somewhere around a half-win player who can just sit there and like you said, pitch 2 innings, pitch 3 innings, do that kind of work, possibly a spot start every once in a while. Because he started 1 game last year, 12 in 2014. So you're going to look at a guy in that kind of role, just like you said, the Craig Stammen type role with a guy that can fit that long reliever kind of mentality, but also can come in and get an inning of work done.
Right, and he's only 31 years old, so he's not quite past his effectiveness. So who knows? 2015 might have been a down year, and he might bounce back and be that pitcher that he was in 2014. So you never really know. And $3 million is, that's worth roughly 0.4 WAR. So if the Nats
he'll certainly be the least expensive non-rookie pitcher in that bullpen.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, or non-pre-ARB pitcher, I should say, in that bullpen.
Yeah, pretty much.
So it'll be a good deal for the Nationals to have in that situation. If he stays healthy, he was a good ad, and I liked the move when I heard it, and then you heard the terms of it, and you like it a hell of a lot.
Yeah, it's a great move, and it seems like so far as we're getting to the moves that have been made have not been splash moves. They've been under the radar, consistent moves, not panicky moves.
Right, and that's. I don't mind that right now. I must say I really don't mind the no panicky going to the $200 million player, although we'll get to that soon.
Yep, absolutely. So next up, the Nationals signed Shawn Kelley with 2 E's, to a 3-year, $15 million contract.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people aren't too familiar with Shawn Kelley. He pitched for the Padres last year, which is why most people haven't heard of him. Because unless you were one of their big splashes over the offseason, you probably haven't heard too much. But 3 years, $15 million, that's $5 million a year. That's another great value play for a reliever, especially when you actually start to dig into Shawn Kelley's numbers. He had a 2.45 ERA, and he had a 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio in over 50 innings last season, which is what you want. You want a reliever that's able to, throw the ball pretty well, keep that ERA. I mean, if it's under 2.5, that's pretty darn solid, especially when you're
a sub 2.5 ERA is pretty incredible.
Especially when you're playing your games in Coors Field, Arizona, and against the Dodgers.
Right. Yeah. Good offenses and small ballparks.
Exactly. Or Coors Field with, no air, which by the way,
not
Mark
small
Reynolds,
parks necessarily, but good ball traveling ballparks.
Which by the way, Mark Reynolds just signed in Colorado. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, great, and that's a great move for him. Yeah. That's the right kind of place for him to sign.
So anyway, Shawn Kelley, another kind of under the radar pick, who's going to be a solid seventh inning kind of guy.
Yeah,
for the Nationals, a great pickup, like I said, sub 2.5 ERA, another just under the radar, not splashy, not, sexy move, but, that's kind of what you need out of a bullpen. You don't need 7 stars. You need 7 players that are effective and can actually go and get you 3 outs or 4 outs or 2 outs and do really what you need.
Yeah, you said 7th inning guy, and I think that's probably ideally where you want him to end up. I think there's a really good chance he ends up as the Nats 8th inning guy, at least to start the season. And it's because of the numbers that he put up last year, as you kind of alluded to. But 8 days ago, when this rumor was first mentioned, and like 5 days before it actually came through because of whatever. But he's coming off of a really good year, and I just wanted to throw out some of his rankings. These are his National League rankings among relievers with at least 50 innings pitched. So, I didn't want to just only do qualified relievers, but I also didn't want to do all pitchers. So he has the 10th best FIP in the National League, 8th best xFIP in the National League, the 19th best ERA, the 8th best strikeouts per 9, the 11th best strikeouts per walk, and 20th in FWAR among relievers, behind Drew Storen, actually, for the record, as I put in my tweet. But he is a top 10 guy in all of the important categories that you look at for a relief pitcher, or 11th for the strikeout to walk ratio. But he's coming off of a really great year, and he could be just that kind of under the radar, as you said, decision that could shore up a huge issue for the Nationals last year, which was their bullpen, without having to go and get Kimbrel or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. That's two really nice, more veteran pieces instead of the Nationals trying to rely on who's the next guy at AAA that can come up and hopefully get the job done.
And I think there's going to be some of that happening this year, but
there's always going to be that happening. But when you
don't want it to be 5 of your 7 guys.
When you're not relying on that, when you're not needing that, I mean, those will just be fillers, hopefully.
Yeah.
So another really solid move. And then this one I think is probably the most interesting move the Nationals have done so far. Trading away one of the Nationals' best hitters from last season in Yunel Escobar to the Angels for, I'm sorry, what is it? Gott?
Yes, Trevor Gott.
Trevor Gott with 2 T's.
Yes.
Talk about an interesting player to get. Obviously, we're sad to see Yunel's Instagram go. And sad to see him leave, because he was really he came in with some clubhouse concerns from some issues that happened up in Toronto, but he was a phenomenal player for the Nationals, a great teammate. I believe he hit over 310 last year and pretty much did whatever the Nationals needed to, and it's sad to see that kind of player go. But what the Nationals received, I didn't say got, in the trade was a young pitcher with 6 years of team control.
Right.
Which is huge. And we're not just talking any pitcher. He had about a 3 ERA last year, as in his first actual appearances in the big leagues in under 50 innings, which is why he's not going to be Super 2 eligible or arbitration eligible for 3 more years. But he has an average fastball velocity of 96.2.
Yeah, that's fun.
That's fast.
And you know what's impressive to me, and I know you got to throw out the small sample size thing here, but his strikeout rate for a guy that throws that hard at the major league level in 2015 was astonishingly low. It was 5.1.
Yeah,
strikeouts per 9. That is insanely low for a guy who has an average fastball velocity between 96 and 97 miles an hour. Yeah,
that's super weird.
Now, his numbers at the minor league level were what you would expect. In 2015 at AAA, he had a 10.8 strikeout per 9 ratio. In AA, the same year, a 9.15 strikeout per 9 ratio. So he is capable of striking out a lot of guys. I would just be interested to see, the call-up happened late in the year. Was his arm getting tired his first year in the major league at the major league level, which affected his strikeout rate? Was he still working on breaking stuff? Which would be much easier to get strikeouts on in the minor leagues that you can't pretend at the major league level and get done because the hitters are so much better.
Right, and you never know when he's going to get into spring training, and Max Scherzer teaches him a devastating pitch,
Right.
You never know when something like that happens, so it's going to click. But most importantly, a guy who already has a little major league experience in the bullpen, under team control for 6 years.
Yeah,
it's huge. It's fantastic.
It's huge. It's also worth noting, and this is a thing we're definitely going to get into it in the next little segment of the show, I know, but it's a worthwhile move. A young guy with a lot of controllability, with a lot of potential, who throws very hard. It's kind of like the perfect Mike Rizzo equation. But it's worth noting that as far as offense from 2015, it was a down year for everybody except for Bryce Harper. But of the top 5 Fangraphs WAR offensive players from 2015, all of them except for Bryce Harper are no longer on the team. Well, Bryce Harper and Danny Espinosa, I should say, are no longer on the team. Escobar is no longer on the team. Ian Desmond's not on the team. And Art Span's not on the team. So losing Yunel there and then losing 2 of those other guys and expecting Danny Espinosa to have the same kind of year this year as last year, which I think is very possible.
Yes.
but I do not think Bryce Harper can do it again. I think he could still win an MVP. I just don't think he could have one
You
of the
don't think
best
he's going
seasons
to
in
throw
the
another
history
10
of
war
baseball again.
season? You don't think
Yeah.
he's going to have another 10 war? We're talking like 7 plus, but
Oh yeah, 7+ and possible MVP again season. But
right.
like he had one of the best seasons in the history of ever, and I just don't see. I don't think you could possibly predict that to happen again. Mike Trout did it.
Yep.
But
he's also Mike Trout.
He's also Mike Trout, and Bryce Harper maybe is that guy. But one incredible year doesn't guarantee that you're going to get that. So the Nationals definitely have work to do there, especially with losing a guy like Escobar, who despite the fact that his defense did prove to be very subpar, his offense was everything the Nationals could have wanted it to be, plus a lot.
Quick fun fact about Harper and Trout. Harper and Trout each Harper has the best age 19 and age 22 season in baseball history.
Yep.
Mike Trout has the best 20 and 21 age season in baseball history.
Nice. So 19 through 22, you said, are totally locked up by Harper and Trout.
Yep. Which we're talking the history of baseball, and it all happened within the last 4 or 5 years.
In case you didn't know, this sport's been around for a minute or two.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool that we're all gonna I'm gonna be able to tell #BabyMac that I got to watch Harper and Trout. So that's pretty cool. I'll always appreciate that. So not too much else in the way of signings. Minor league signing here. There was another guy in the Trevor Gott Yunel Escobar trade, but not worth mentioning right now. So let's talk a little bit about what's happened in the past week with players the Nationals were trying to get. I can't remember. Did Zobrist sign when we podcasted last week?
No, we talked about how we weren't sure if it was a good deal for the Nationals or not, but
okay,
he had not signed a deal yet.
Okay, so Ben Zobrist signed with the Chicago Cubs, who won 1 billion games last year. I think they won 97 games last year.
They won a lot of games.
And then they signed Ben Zobrist for, I want to say, what was it like?
456, I think.
456, which is less than we speculated on the podcast.
Yeah, I think we both said about 60.
We both said about 60. And it turns out that the Nationals, it seems, and also the San Francisco Giants offered around 460 for Ben Zobrist. But he is from Illinois. He is obviously familiar with Joe Madden. And the most interesting part of the piece was that he was not comfortable in the Nationals clubhouse.
Yeah.
And that Mike Rizzo didn't actually meet with him face to face.
Yeah, I do think that I don't know what there is to the clubhouse comment. I do think there is something to the clubhouse comment, and I think that it would not be smart to be flippant about that and just say, oh yeah, well, we know things happened last year, but whatever. This is a serious event happened last year, and it would make sense that a player from the outside would look at that, see the centerpiece of those issues as of the most publicized issue, which is Jonathan Papelbon, still being in that clubhouse. Not to mention, baseball players talk.
Yes.
And if there are other things happening that we're not aware about, Ben Zobrist knows about it.
I mean, just look at Barry Svrluga's amazing year-end 3-part story.
Exactly.
Where there were clubhouse, blow-ups with players versus the manager. I mean, that's never good. And the interesting thing about free agency in baseball is that all of these players have played with each other. Rivalries exist mostly within fans.
Exactly.
They don't exist as much between players.
Yes.
For instance, we all don't like the Braves or the Cardinals, but I'm sure that most of these players would be fine to play for the Cardinals or the Braves, because they have friends, they know the coaches,
Exactly.
Everyone knows everyone. Everyone's always moving around. So I'm sure they
played JUCO ball with one guy.
Exactly.
JUCO ball with the bench coach.
I'm sure they're always texting each other and Snapchatting each other.
I'm sure.
So stuff gets around.
Right.
I don't think it is. I think it's worth mentioning that that's pretty easy to see why someone wouldn't be comfortable. I know I personally wouldn't be comfortable going into a situation where I knew there was any dysfunction at all, which
Yeah.
it's pretty clear that there was.
Right.
Whether there will be in the future, it's not. But
I I think that's
also, yeah.
I think that's a really good point. We know that there was. There's no doubt that there was. Not necessarily an indicator of what's going to happen in the future, no matter who is on the team.
Yes.
But it's worth noting. And I cut you off. So what were you saying?
Yeah. But when it comes down to it, Ben Zobrist was with Joe Madden for years in Tampa Bay, and he has family close by, and it just made sense for him. And there comes a point.
Sorry, there's an argument to be made that Joe Madden started Ben Zobrist's career, and he is the reason that he's making $56 million.
Right.
Ben Zobrist was nothing but a utility player before Joe Madden just figured out what he could do and made him the superiest of super utility players that basically made his career what it was.
Yes.
So there's definitely, plus, like you said, his family is from Illinois, so it's already a local situation. So that is a kind of move where you look at it that just makes sense.
It does make sense. And another thing that makes perfect sense, the Chicago Cubs before this were going into the 2016 season as probably the National League favorite to, at the very least, be in the World Series.
Oh yeah, they should be. Despite the fact that people will be a little queasy about doing that because they don't want to be blamed for the jinx, but they should be. They were already the best team in baseball, best offensive team in the National League, I should say, going in. They got better, and then they got some more pitching.
Yes. So he's also, when the front runner for, like I said, at the very least, the National League pennant winners comes calling. I mean, it's kind of hard to say no. I mean, let's be frank. The Nationals are not the prohibitive favorite in the National League anymore.
No, they're not the darlings that they once were.
Right. And so that's another thing that definitely comes into account, and that's another thing that comes into account with the next player we're going to talk about. Jason Heyward.
Yeah.
Who signed once again in Chicago on, I want to say it was an 8-year, $180 million contract. Is that right? 8-year?
Yeah, 8-year, 184 maybe. Hold on.
Okay, somewhere around there. You can look up the number while I'm talking.
8 years, 184.
Okay, 8 years, 184. Where once again the Nationals offered 8 years, 200.
Yeah.
For Jason Heyward services, and we're looking at a player who's taking $16 million less, which in the grand scheme of things, the difference between $184 million and $200 million, probably not really that much.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, it's numbers we can dream about, but I don't know how the Nationals contract was structured, but I do know that Jason Heyward has an opt-out option after 3 and 4 years. Right. When he is going to be 29 or 30. So,
and there's another guy who becomes a free agent in that third year. Do you know who he is?
I think Bryce Harper.
And like 400 other people.
And like every other good player ever.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that the Nationals were in on Heyward the whole time.
Yeah.
It would have been great to have. It would have necessitated some other moves. The outfield defense would have been a little bit interesting with. I could only assume would be, I guess, Harper in center.
I feel like it might have been Heyward.
It probably would have been Heyward.
Yeah,
but even still, you're looking at an outfield of
or some sort of split of those duties. But it still would have been awkward.
It still would have been awkward. Not the rangiest of defenses.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that he decided to go to Chicago, but once again. When the front runner comes calling for $184 million, it's kind of hard to say no.
And there were other factors at play here that are also worth noting. Those two opt-outs are worth a lot of money because he can either end up being he basically has a pass to say, wait, the market is cooled. I wouldn't have made this much money, so I'm just going to stick and earn my money. Or say the market has ballooned and actually going to make way more and opt out, and then if the Nationals had signed him to that same kind of deal, they would have lost Harper and Heyward in the same year.
And I'm pretty sure the contract is heavily front-loaded.
Yeah, and Jason Worth in the same year, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
So they would have lost their entire outfield in the same season if with that opt-out. You're right. The contract is probably massively front-loaded. And not to mention, and somebody posted this, and if somebody's listening and they can tell me who it was, I would appreciate it. But you're talking about a tax rate in Illinois versus a tax rate in Washington, D.C. You're talking about a tax rate that's almost 9% versus one that's barely over 3%.
Look at you.
So you're on a $200 million deal, or $200 million versus 184 for the same deal. You're talking about 6% of interest on all that money. You're making up a lot of that cash just in taxes. So
look at Joe dropping the governmental knowledge. This is analysis you cannot get on other podcasts.
There are other people who do not steal that information nearly as effectively as we do.
That is absolutely true.
But really, somebody else did that, and if I would like to credit that person, if anybody knows who it was. But
we were nice enough to steal it.
We were nice enough to steal it and spread that knowledge. But it is worthwhile to say I was honestly surprised not surprised or shocked, but I just found it interesting that the Nationals were so in on him and made such an aggressive bid for him in this offseason. It does make sense. Makes sense. I think that a left-handed bat of his caliber with his defense, even if it would have been a little bit lower than it would have been normally in center field, to have a guy like Jason Heyward on the team would have been huge. But it still stands that I don't think the Nationals need to make a massive $200 million splash in this free agent market in order to be competitive.
I agree.
So they have to make some more moves, but I don't think they have to make the Jason Heyward style moves. Although if it turns into Alex Gordon, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
So,
that leads the Nationals to what? We've heard several things batted around. The Nats are looking for a left-handed hitter. They're looking for someone who can play middle infield, preferably second base, among other players. Kelly Johnson is a name that keeps getting bandied about. He would be an affordable option. Probably would be more of a starter for 2 months before platooning with Espinoza or Turner, depending on how that shakes out. But another one that I want to get into a little bit more, because I know we both feel strongly about this certain player, is the Nationals are in talks with the Reds about Brandon Phillips.
Yeah.
Second baseman of the Cincinnati Reds. Obviously familiar with Dusty Baker. Obviously a second baseman. What do you think, Joe?
I have questions about. I just don't like him that much.
Yeah.
I just don't like it. And this is the same conversation I said this last night. I had the same concern about Yunel Escobar. By all accounts, I was wrong. So I'm willing to say that there's a chance that I'm just not liking the guy for no reason, and he comes to DC and I'm really going to like him, and that's all fine and good. I don't like him. I don't like that he's 34 and has 2 years left. I don't like that I don't think you can expect him to be any more than a half win to a win player, which is good, but I don't think it's what the Nationals. I don't think it's the best the Nationals can do, and I think that yes, he has a superior glove, but if we know one thing, we know that when players get older, they lose that. That's just happens, and he's 34 years old.
And we're talking about a sub 300 on base percentage guy.
Yeah. He doesn't wow me, and I don't get a good feeling off of it. So I just have to. I know that I say he's like a half win to win player, and he's proven his entire career that he's been more than that. I get that, but
he's also never been 34 before.
And that's exactly kind of my point, right? Like he's never, and he'll actually. I think now that I'm looking at the numbers, he'll actually be entering his age 35 season. Yeah. Now that I'm looking at it, so I just don't. I don't like the move. He's by WRC weighted runs created plus. He's been a sub average offensive player the last 3 seasons. And we know that his glove is going to continue to deteriorate, as some stats have shown, and he continues to get older. So I don't like the move, especially if it's going to give up any level of prospect at all. Even if it only gives up organizational stuff, I don't think it's the best way to fill the need.
Yeah, I would agree. And I, like you, am not a big fan of the person,
Yeah.
Brandon Phillips. That's just based on, the stories and the insulting of a reporter.
That's the
2
most
years
damning
ago.
thing. And
Yeah.
you can search Brandon Phillips reporter on your preferred search engine, and you'll get a lot of hits on that. It was a pretty disturbing thing.
Go on. Oh, what is the thing they always said on Parks? Oh, what was the search engine they always talked about? Was it Alta Vista?
Maybe. Oh, it's so old school.
Yeah.
So
Go Bing it. Go Bing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not a fan of the person. I think his skills are obviously in decline. He's not the kind of player, tools-wise, that the Nationals need. They need someone who can hit the ball and get on base, not someone who is going to strike out and maybe run into 20 home runs. That's not going to help the team right now. So I think the Nationals already have some egos in the clubhouse.
Yeah, for sure.
At least as currently constructed.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be so keen on having someone else in there doing that. So not a fan of the person. The player is not a good fit, I believe, in DC. So,
and let's not forget a huge fact. All we're talking about is the Nationals need left-handed bats. He's a right-handed bat, so he doesn't even fill the most basic need that the Nationals lineup has, which is for a left-handed bat.
Right.
So it would make a lot more sense if we were talking about a guy who was a left-handed bat that could fill that need.
Yes.
Are we going to talk about that guy?
Go ahead.
So it makes sense that it would come up as the offseason goes along, but the Nationals have had some loose ties to Daniel Murphy.
Yes.
Coming into this week. I feel like of all of the big free agent people that are out on the market right now that are left-handed, Daniel Murphy always seemed to be the most obvious connection to the Nationals to me, because he was coming off of a hot year, so people will just assume that the Nationals are willing to pay because they've been willing to pay before.
Right.
And they have a need for something, which is they need middle infield and they need a left-handed bat. He is both of those things. I think I would probably prefer Brandon Phillips than Daniel Murphy, to be honest with you.
I would prefer Danny Espinosa and Trey Turner
to either set of circumstances, and I totally agree.
Wilmer Difo. To either of those, especially because you saw everything that is Daniel Murphy in the postseason last year. He had one of the most amazing series offensively in baseball history, hitting home runs in, I want to say 5 straight games, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Just being an absolute hero. And then you got to the World Series, and how many errors did he make? He was like Dan Uggla in that All-Star game where he made 3 errors in 1 inning.
Yeah.
It was just embarrassing, and that's Daniel Murphy to a T. He's going to have absolute moments of brilliance offensively, followed by absolute moments of sheer disaster defensively. So that's Daniel Murphy, and I've said it many times before. I would rather have good defense and lesser power offense than an Adam Dunn type or whatever. Totally. Someone that's just going to hit home runs and strike out and be terrible defensively.
And so when you look at Murphy's career numbers, he's a career 288 hitter, and you could look at that and go, actually, that's better than I thought it was. He's also a career 755 OPS guy. I mean, his on base percentage is I guess the a third of the way up. It's 331, but he's not going to hit for power. He hit for power in the postseason, but that was just a stroke of luck, to be totally honest with you. I don't think that, and I think you lose so much defensively.
Yes.
I mean, so much defensively.
And not to mention, he is tied to draft pick compensation.
Yeah, and that, I think, ultimately, I would wonder, to be totally honest with you, with being tied, if Daniel Murphy doesn't end up being that guy that signed for the team in May.
Yeah, it would be after the draft.
Oh, is that when? So after,
It's
so
after the
oh
draft.
wow,
Now,
is it
yeah.
really? So
It's
middle of
after the
June?
draft. So yeah, it would be late.
Maybe not. I don't know. That's a really
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time. He would. I would imagine you'd probably take a discount before you do that. That's a really long wait. I didn't. I thought it was in May for some reason.
I think it used to be.
I thought it was like around Super Two time.
No.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah.
No.
That's
So yeah, Daniel Murphy's an interesting case. I don't think it's going to happen. Like I said, I'd rather see a move like Rizzo's been doing, under the radar. Just build it up. Like I said, a Kelly Johnson type player who's fits a need, and doesn't have to be the guy who can be a platoon guy, who can be a starter for a couple weeks kind of guy.
yeah.
Where you're not going to lose too much, but you're also not going to gain too much. So I
Well,
think that's important.
I agree. And the Nats blog's Andrew Flax actually made a point a while ago that is worth bringing back up, about going for a bunch of star power and a bunch of names has not typically done teams well as far as postseason longevity. You need a deep bench. You need guys that, when inevitable injuries happen over the course of a 6-month grueling everyday baseball schedule, can step in and be passable. And that typically does not mean going and signing $200 million players.
Right.
You can do it that way. You could sign $200 million players and then move your Michael Taylors of the worlds to the bench, and that could be a positive move. But they don't have to spend that kind of money and make that kind of splash to fill the kind of needs they want. They just have to have, 80 wins from your bench. You have to have that kind of a deep bench, not a. You don't have to have 150 wins from your bench. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I
So
heard you.
I don't think any of these guys really fit with what the Nationals are in need of.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with that. Do you want to talk about Chapman at all, or you just want to let it go?
Yeah, let's spend 2 minutes talking about it so we can say we talked about it and then move on to questions.
Great. Aroldis Chapman. Everyone has seen the stories from last week. Gunshots, allegations of domestic assault and abuse. He was in the middle of trade talks with the Dodgers at the time that I believe it was Jeff Passons of Yahoo's report came out.
That was an insane.
It was a terrifying read.
Yeah.
And thankfully, since then, the Nationals have pulled any interest they had in Aroldis Chapman, despite Dusty Baker's unfortunate opening of his mouth.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say error because I don't think it was an error. I think he just shouldn't have opened his mouth.
And at the same time, I will defend Dusty here a little bit.
In context, it was very different. Yes.
In context, it was a very different quote, and this is a guy who is very aware of these issues, and I think has spoken very well on domestic violence issues in the past.
Yes.
And so I don't know if it was an error. I don't know if it was a misspeak. I don't know if it was a traditional gender role thing that happened that would be unfortunate. I don't know what it was, but I do know that he's spoken very well on these issues and at other times, and I don't want to pile on Dusty on that note.
Right. So, like I said, interest in Chapman from the Nationals has disappeared, which is good to hear.
Yes.
So, yeah, not a player the Nationals would want around. And there's no word on what would happen with the new MLB domestic assault policy that has just taken place. So I believe that most likely Chapman will not be traded from Cincinnati because
I don't think
no team wants that PR.
No. So I think between him and Jose Reyes, who was also caught up in the same conversation, I think that it will be interesting to see how MLB decides to try to differentiate itself from the most popular sport in the U.S., which is the NFL.
Good call. So yeah, no Chapman, and we are both very okay with that.
Indeed.
Awesome. Let's get to questions.
Yeah, I love questions. Questions are my favorite part.
Oh, real quick. I have on show notes this week in LOL. Apparently, the Marlins called Mike Rizzo about Gio Gonzalez. And Mike Rizzo said, "We want Christian Yelich, who happens to be one of the most up-and-coming power hitters in all of baseball." And the Marlins hung up. So that's pretty funny.
Well, I think it's mostly funny because it was so smart of Mike Rizzo because the Marlins do such very, very stupid things that
Mhm.
why not ask for what you want? You might get it because they're terrible.
Yep.
So why not go for it?
Should have asked for Jose Fernandez.
Yeah.
Hashtag should have.
Yeah, one straight up 1-for-1. 1 year of or 2 years of Gio Gonzalez for Jose Fernandez.
There you go. So that was a pretty funny moment.
Yes.
But yeah, let's hit up some questions. And thanks to all of you who have responded at Nats Talk on the go on Twitter. We love interacting with you guys, and it makes it more fun when we have one account that we can do it from. So
Yeah.
let's do it.
Yeah. So the first question that I have that I marked here is from Fang. John Feng asks, the Nationals released their coaching staff roster. Like to get our thoughts on the coaching staff. So as a reminder, Dusty Baker is the Washington Nationals manager. In case you hadn't heard that breaking news.
Hey.
Chris Spire is the bench coach. Mike Maddox is the pitching coach. Rick Shue comes back, as we've discussed in the past, and we talked about Maddox as well. But Shue comes back as a hitting coach. Davey Lopes comes back as the first base coach. Bobby comes to the team as the first base coach, I should say. Henley comes back as third base coach. Jacques Jones is the hitting coach.
Wow, that's
assistant hitting coach.
There you go.
And Dan Firova is the bullpen coach.
I do not know anything about Dan Farova, but I'm sure that his only job is really to answer the phone.
I'm going to interject on that 1 second because luckily I get Washington Nationals press releases, and so I have a little background on the guy. And he spent 20 years managing and coaching in the Mexican League, and so I think that would be an awesome addition to a bullpen where Wilson Ramos had to translate last year.
Yeah.
I think that's a good addition. As you said, the bullpen coach is kind of an honorary kind of thing more than anything. Not much needs to be done there except for, hey, you warm up.
Yep.
So I think that you get something valuable in that from a guy who has experience in a non-US league.
Yeah, that's good. So, I like that.
Yeah.
More groundbreaking analysis. Love Davey Lopes.
Yeah.
He's going to absolutely
probably my favorite hire of this season.
Yeah, he's going to change the Nationals' running game where I believe they were – I don't have it in front of me, but you can probably pull it up way faster than I can. I believe they were near the bottom in the league in stolen bases.
Oh, yeah, it was not good. I will look it up, but it was very bad.
Yeah, it was not good. And the Nationals have some players who are really smart and can run. I mean, Jason Worth is actually surprisingly intelligent. I mean, surprisingly. If anyone's actually listened to Jason Worth, he's an incredible baseball mind.
Yeah.
But he knows how to take advantage, and I think that Davey Lopes can help some of the younger players who actually have really good wheels steal some bases. I mean, Trey Turner is one of the fastest freaking people I've seen since
on the planet. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Since like Emilio Bonifacio hit a pop fly Texas Leaguer double in his first at bat for the Nationals. Love Davey Lopes. I think that's great. I'm fine with Sendley coming back in.
Oh yeah, me too.
Because he's fun.
Yeah,
he's fun. Can make his name like Sendley. Like he's
made bad decisions, but you know what? So has every third base coach in baseball.
And he's aggressive, and I like that.
I prefer aggressive to not. And to
make a play.
The Nationals were 27th out of 30 teams in stolen bases. The only National League team that was worse was the New York Mets.
Nailed it.
So, yeah, not good. Only 57 stolen bases all year long from the entire team.
What you look for in a bench coach is someone who is going to be a future manager. And Chris Spire is one of those people that has been mentioned as a great younger baseball mind. And it'll definitely probably help Dusty Baker connect with the younger players.
and he was in the front office with the Reds when Baker was there. Yeah. So it's a connection that makes sense. It's a guy that, and we've talked about this before, it's what Matt Williams did not have in Randy Knorr, as much as we all love Randy Knorr, a guy that you know and trust from a past life. And that's what you need in a bench coach.
Absolutely.
So I think I don't know much about him, but I think it's a fine hire.
Yep. I am fine with it.
Yeah. All right. 2 other questions. What are the Nats from Jen Vandy Girl? What do the Nats need more power hitter to protect Bryce or a lefty?
Are we talking lefty hitter?
Yes, I'm guessing power hitter or just a power hitter to protect him or a lefty hitter.
I think lefty hitter for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. I don't subscribe too much to the protection thing.
Yeah, I don't either. I'm not no.
If you look at Bryce Harper's 2015, he had none of it, and he had one of the best seasons ever. So I don't think good players need to be protected.
Right.
Barry Bonds sure didn't.
No, he had Jeff Kent for a while.
For a while, but not for his whole career.
Yeah.
North Carolina Nats.
Hey.
Nats have failed to land several free agents despite offering more money. The clubhouse PAP issues, which we talked about, Madden Effect discussed. Actually, we hit that. Sorry, Mike. I didn't realize we already hit that. Most important question that we've been asked, in my personal opinion, from the Natitude. What did the Nats get this off? Where did the Nats get this offseason? The toilet store? I'll hang up and listen, which is a great Seinfeld.
Real quick, draft. Chris Byers apparently old. I missed that.
Finally. Yeah, he's 65.
All right, there we go. Thanks.
Not young.
Whatever. He's old. He's an old man.
Yes.
Fine. Whatever.
It's okay. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
I think there was a pitcher named Spire that was young, but that's fine.
That's true. That's true. There was a Spire more recently. Now that I think about it.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, toilet store for sure.
Yeah, toilet store. It's a great Seinfeld reference. It's great.
I thought it was an Anchorman reference.
No.
I'm sure it is an Anchorman.
It very well maybe.
It came from Seinfeld, I'm sure. So.
Actually, Seinfeld might have been Jerk Store. So Seinfeld was totally Jerk Store.
Okay.
I'm losing it here. Okay. NatFan9 Jonathan asks, do you think 2016 will be the breakout year for Michael A. Taylor?
I would like it to be, but I don't know if the Nationals front office are going to find a center fielder like Jason Heyward.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'd be cool if it was, but I don't know what a Michael Taylor breakout season would really look like, to be honest. I mean, he's got some pop, but he's never going to hit for a high average. So I don't know what that really looks like. Do you?
No.
Maybe our good friend Ryan Sullivan, Nats GM, can help us out with that on Twitter, and we can share that. But I don't know. I think what you see is kind of what you get. You kind of see a lanky, fast center fielder with some holes in his swing, but when he connects, he can really get a hold of one. I mean, I think that's what Michael Taylor really is.
I think Michael Taylor's a 7-8 hitter. I just think that he's a bottom of the order hitter. I don't see him ever being a guy that you think of a fast center fielder who's going to hit at the top of your lineup. And he could definitely steal some bases, but I also don't think that it's worth trying to hit him higher up to do that. So I think you slot him in 7 or 8 and take the great defense that you get from him, and you do get really great defense, and take the offensive hit. I think that's a good point. I don't know what a breakout season for him looks like. Maybe 25 home runs would be a breakout year.
Yeah, I mean, getting an average, hitting 280.
Yeah, I mean, I think a breakout. I could see him hitting 25 home runs in the next 2 years, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't see that happening this year. I don't think that he's quite ready for that yet. He, like you said, he still has way too many holes in his swing.
Yeah.
He strikes out a lot, like all the time. Although it got better at the end of last year.
Yeah.
It did get much, much better. And then I think this is parting thought, unless I missed some. Oh, actually, 2 more. Carl asks, what do you think about the team keeping in touch with D-Span? I didn't see a rumor about him keeping in touch.
I did.
Oh, did you see that? Okay, so enlighten.
The Nationals have maintained a dialogue with...
that was the rumor? Okay.
Yeah, that was essentially it. I like it. We've talked before about, having him around. I mean, if he's healthy, he's a phenomenal player for the Nationals. And we talked a lot about how much he was a table setter for the Nationals last year. I think it would be a great person. He would be a great person to have.
Yeah.
He could start. He's a lefty bat. He could start the season, kind of still keep Michael Taylor under his wing a little bit, teach him some things. I would love that, and it sounds like Dinard Span's not going to be gobbled up quickly, so who knows what could happen.
Yeah, Denard Span coming into his age 32 season. Yes, he went through some really serious injuries last year. He had 3 surgeries in a calendar year, so he definitely had a lot of work done. But if the Nationals can get him on a 1-year deal, and because he's looking for a pillow deal to make a pillow contract to make a big deal in 2017. That's possible. I still don't know if he's going to do that because he is entering his age 32 season. Then if he only signs a 1-year deal, then it's age 33, and then it's harder to see him get the big payday that he's honestly never gotten because he signed that ridiculous deal with the Twins 5 years ago. I would love to see Denard Span back in DC. I think that if you could sign him on a 1-year, maybe even a 2-year deal, it would be a worthwhile signing for the Nationals as long as he's healthy.
Yeah. Like it. There were just a few things that came around since we started recording that just real quick, maybe not since it recorded. Beard, we answered baseball gifts. We kind of talked about that last week a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's see. International signings from question from Fang. There are a couple Korean players out there that have been posted. I don't think any of them would be good fits for the Nationals. I know several of the one big hitter, I can't remember his name right now. He has stated an extreme preference to stay on the East Coast or on the West Coast, which is obviously closer to home. And there is a large Asian immigrant population on the West Coast where he would, I'm sure, be much more comfortable than over here. There was a pitcher that the Padres won the posting, but the team actually pulled him back. I thought would be a great fit. He was 26. He won the Korean Cy Young. I don't think there's any players out there right now that are going to be good fits, but you never know.
Yeah, and they certainly haven't been tied to anybody, at least outward, so it didn't seem to be a big thing.
And Pete Rose is a moron, and I'm sure Joe agrees.
Yes, he is. Yeah, quite possibly the best hitter ever, but a total dunce.
Yep.
So that we were talking about this at work yesterday when it came on, and a bunch of non-baseball coworkers of mine were like, "So yeah, what's the deal with this guy? Isn't he like a liar and a cheater?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's basically right. That's basically accurate. You basically summed it up in about 3 words."
Yep.
So. Yeah, I've got nothing else to add on the baseball note unless you have anything else.
I got nothing else. Just a huge thank you to Kurt for all that he's done, for being our new design czar.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing the amazing things he can throw together for us, because everything he's done so far has been spectacular. So really happy to have him on board, and really happy to have a professional look for the show.
Yeah, it took us a while to get there, but we really, like, just to echo the same thoughts, we really do appreciate the logo and everything else, and the outpouring of love has already started. So again, we'll provide details for T-shirts and buttons and those things when we have them. We promise that is coming, and it's moving in a very good direction. So we'll get you those details, again, not for the holiday season, but hopefully early in 2016 we'll be able to get you that information. And the other things I want to mention, we haven't said this in a very, very long time on the podcast, but I want to bring it back up again because we've been stagnant at the same number for a while. If you like this show and you want to tell us that you like this show, please rate us on iTunes.
Nice.
We had a lot of ratings early on in the show, and it's since dipped off because I think it's a lot of the same listeners. We've added some and just haven't mentioned it in so long that most people don't think to do it. It really does help us out. As Craig has said before and everything, we are the longest currently active Nationals podcast out there, and it's really helpful to get our search results when you search for Nats or Washington Nationals up to the top, so more people can listen and chime in, and it'll make us a better podcast, and it'll make it more entertaining to listen to if you take 10 seconds out of your time and give us a star rating and a couple of thoughts on what you think about our show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening and talking with us, because Joe and I both we've started doing questions a couple months ago, and it's quickly become our favorite part of
Oh,
the
no doubt
show.
about it. No
So
doubt about it. We love it because
so
it gets us thinking about things we don't usually think about, and so
right,
people
because we
people think
think the
differently
same
than
thing.
us, and we really enjoy it. So thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it, and we will catch you again soon, and hopefully soon have more episodes in the off season than we did during the entire 2015 season.
Yeah, it'll probably be after the holidays. So
Oh yeah,
uh, have a wonderful Christmas to those of you that celebrate. I hope everyone had a great Hanukkah that observes that. And please have a safe New Year's. Do not drink and drive. Call a cab or call me and I will come pick you up.
amen. We'll talk to you guys soon.
All right.